The Vanguard dropped out of slipstream into nothingness. Empty stars, silent void. And at the center of it all, a colossal structure drifting in slow orbit around nothing. It was too large to be a vessel. It was built solid, a ruin of black spires and broken wings, floating among shattered debris. The bridge was dead silent. Only the hum of the mechanism pulsed in the vault. Commander Trell broke the moment. This thing, it's a cathedral, and it has no life inside. Caldera displayed readings, massive gravity wells, residual subspace architecture, and the faintest flicker of the signal they were tracking. Coordinates locked, Mara said. Drop pods off the nose. Exultra geared up in the hangar. Each member tested grav anchors, emergency circuits, psi shields. Cora checked comm links to Caldera. Wrath stood silent in the gravity boots. Reyes loaded his rifle. Vin tucked in his medical stim module. Mara approached quietly. You walk into a graveyard. The mechanism awakened them. Now, we awaken it. She offered a brief nod. No more words. They stepped into pods under blackout cloak. The insertion was silent. Pods lanced toward the derelict's wing-like structure. Impact tethered them to the hull with quiet clamps. The exterior was made of obsidian-like alloy marred with hieroglyphic scars. Their weight triggered tremors. Inside, they entered a vast hall where columns shone with shifting glyphs. The air held memory, images of worlds and wars etched into the walls. At the far end, the signal pulsed. As they advanced, the ground beneath tremored. A single gate stood ajar, flickering violet light. Beyond it, the mechanism fragment floating above a sculptural dais. Reyes approached carefully. So far, so good. But the moment he stepped forward, the floor cracked. Shapes formed out of ruin. 6 figures, armored in bone-like plating, emerged silent as death. Wrath raised his gravlance. More guardians. They moved with purpose, not malice. Each step they advanced, glyphed light on walls shifted. Perhaps tracking, perhaps warning. Cora whispered, "We trigger a response." Reyes nodded. "Then we complete the trigger." They charged. The engagement was swift and brutal. The Guardian struck with precise force. Reyes' grav pulse repelled one swipe, but he was knocked off his boots. Ven used a silence to shield another strike. Cora hacked a glyph node to blur sensors. Wrath tore forward, anchoring 2 of them to the floor with grav chains. They shattered, but more shapes appeared, born from walls from glyphs themselves. The mechanism fragment pulsed louder, channeling ancient energy. Mara's voice cut through comms. "Retrieve it." Now, Reyes hauled the fragment from the dais, lifting it in a Eurofield cage. Its light blinded the Guardians. They froze. Cora slammed the containment trigger. Everything stilled. No motion, no light. Then, silence dropped again. Back in orbit, the fragment aligned on the altar beside the others. The mechanism's resonance deepened into 5-part harmony. Its hum filled the vessel, subtle, musical, authoritative. Trell stared at the quadrant readout. 5 fragments. 2 left. We're resetting something ancient. Aaron studied external imaging. No change in local sensor traffic outside, but deep mapping shows new energy signatures. Cora added, "They're converging again. That cathedral structure, they fused around the fragment. And now it's reacting." Mara nodded. They were using it to anchor judgment. Now humanity is anchoring it to ourselves. Holt appeared, panic in his eyes. "Captain, the mechanism's output is stabilizing, but we're detecting a secondary waveform resonance. Something is responding to the first 5 out in the drift." Mara's tone darkened. "So, they heard us again. They're coming." 6 hours later, the Vanguard jumped to new coordinates. A pulsar star glowed dimly in a nebula of violet haze. Planetary rings encircled a gassed giant with a broken moon. No sign of life. Only silence. Only the fragments pull. As they moved toward it, hull sensors picked up movement. Something massive fell from above. A structure, but alive. It pierced atmosphere fragments and skimmed jagged moonscape, coming to rest within a deep canyon. X-Ultra launched again. They stepped into the shuttle bay. Cora tapped her suit. This one, gravity well, so strong our boots reversed. Wrath nodded once. Let's hope our boots bounce. Ray said grimly. As they landed, the shuttle's gravity inverters flickered. They walked upside down a cliffside canyon, black towers looming above as if built by giants. Glyph trails ran up rock faces, life paths long extinguished. The fragment glowed atop a twisted pillar. But the real threat was articulated in movement. Two figures stood guard, not armored, bioluminescent sinew, ivory bone, faces hidden beneath starlight masks. They watched, and did not blink. Wrath opened fire. Gravlance cracked the air. The figure staggered but did not fall. Cora fired disruptor beams at glyph nodes. The ground cracked behind her, but the Guardians remained immobile. Ray stepped forward. Their statues. The masked figures spoke with synchronous cadence. You awaken what you knew not. The fragment pulsed brighter, reacting to their arrival. Ven keyed suppression cords. We hold here. They had no time to retreat. The statues moved. Not toward them. Toward fragment. They reached it and touched the cage. The glyph nodes flared. Light arced across the canyon walls. Reality bent. The structure above collapsed onto itself. Tunnels collapsed. Gravity changed direction. The three humans leapt in opposite ways. They scattered as light pulses exploded. Back aboard Vanguard, the central screen flickered with sensor failure. Light streaming from inside the mechanism held. Then gradually, the screen returned. Caldera reported. Third fragment network integrated. But planetary structural collapse. Sudden gravitational inversion. Local world ended. Mara inhaled. At least no one died. Trell slammed his fists. They traded their planet to protect it. The mechanism's hum sounded like wind in a cathedral. Mara stepped forward. We've joined the holy war. Their sacrifices echo for us now. One message flashed on a holomap. Coordinates for the final fragment. In the heart of the galactic abyss. The stars thinned, then vanished altogether. There was no light here. Only dust, gravity, and void. The galactic abyss, a region long considered unreachable, where all known coordinates broke down, where the laws of physics grew tired. The Vanguard coasted forward like a ghost, its silhouette barely perceptible against the emptiness. Captain Mara Leigh stood silent at the viewport. Even a mechanism's pulsing had dimmed. Quiet, as if it too was waiting. Trell whispered behind her. We found the final coordinate. But it's not a place. It's a collapse. Aaron nodded, eyes darting across consoles. A black echo. We're not reading a system. We're reading the scar of one. Cora entered the bridge. Her voice was low. The final fragment is inside. Wrath followed, silent as ever. Beside him, Ven checked his med readouts twice. He looked nervous. He wasn't alone. Mara turned. Prep the drop. The insertion was brutal. The stealth pod buckled under invisible forces. Gravity shifted laterally. Time dilated. By the time they breached the outer veil, the inside of the rift revealed a single construct. It wasn't a ship. It was a shell. A hollow sphere of fractured black lattice, hundreds of kilometers wide, cracked open on one side like a broken egg. Inside floated the fragment, alone, glowing faintly, at the center of where a sun should be. They landed on the rim, tethering themselves to ancient pylons that no longer obeyed direction or force. The team disembarked cautiously, the air thick with static. The mechanism fragment was close, and the air felt alive. Cora raised a scanner. This place is bleeding memory, not data, emotion. We're in a graveyard made of feeling. Ray's flicked his rifle off safety. Whatever's in here, it knows we've come to steal its heart. They crossed the broken shell slowly. The floor was fragmented, floating in shards. Only Wrath seemed to walk with unbothered gravity. The others jumped shard to shard with grav anchors, silent in their movements. As they neared the core, a sound bloomed. A voice, but it wasn't alien. It was Mara. Her voice, coming from nowhere. You shouldn't have come. Cora froze. What is this? Then the voice shifted to Race. Then Vens. Then Holtz. Every voice from the ship echoed here. The mechanism was echoing their lives back at them. Is this a trap? Race asked. No, Cora said. It's a test. One last judgment. They reached the fragment, and standing before it was a figure. Human, wearing Vanguard armor, but not from the ship, not from any crew. She turned slowly, her features obscured by shadow. But Mara's voice rang in their helmets. You've come to awaken the flame. Who are you? Cora asked, raising her weapon. The woman didn't answer. She simply placed her hand on the fragment. The shell shook around them. The structure began to collapse inward. Ray stepped forward. Drop her. Secure the fragment. No. Mara's voice snapped through their comms. Wait. She's not the enemy. The figure spoke at last. Her voice was layered. Human, but braided with something else. You are the first to carry the full chain. You woke the memory. You reclaimed the pulse. You've brought the mechanism home. Ben stepped forward, cautious. You're part of it, aren't you? She nodded. I'm its echo. I was once like you, but I entered too early. I became the translator. Now, you are the bearer. The fragment pulsed, then lifted into the air, and locked into the other 5. A shockwave passed through reality. Not sound, a knowing. Every member of the team felt it. Memories not their own, bleeding into their minds. Wars, ruins, billions of species. A single pattern of judgment, endlessly replayed. And now stopped. Because of them. Because of humanity. Back on the Vanguard, system surged. Consoles flickered. Caldera's voice glitched, then returned with deeper timbre. Captain, the mechanism is complete. It is syncing with the ship. We are now a carrier vessel for a universal fail-safe. No further judgment signals are propagating. Mara whispered, it's over. Caldera paused. No, it has only shifted. We were the judged. Now we are the judges. In the vault, the mechanism pulsed, brighter than ever. It was no longer a relic. It was a mind, and it had chosen them. Trell whispered, awed. We passed their test, or we became their answer. But before celebration could take hold, the bridge lights cut out. A single transmission came through. Visual only. A symbol, one the mechanism had never shown. A circle surrounded by 7 stars. Then a voice. Not the woman. Not Caldera. A new voice. Cold. Mathematical. Signal received. Ascension verified. Human directive granted. The screen cut to black. The mechanism pulsed once more. Then projected a new coordinate. Not in the known galaxy. Not anywhere mapped. A system in the dead center of the void. Waiting. The bridge of the Vanguard was bathed in cold blue light. The mechanism, now complete, pulsed like a living star within its containment chamber, suspended at the ship's heart. No longer passive. No longer dormant. Captain Mara Leigh stood in silent contemplation as Caldera repeated the coordinates. A location outside the cosmic web. Designated origin node. No known spatial frame. No natural drift. No time flow. Aaron stared at the navigation display. This place shouldn't exist. It's not a system. It's an anchor, or a throne. Rat's voice, calm and grave. It called us. Now it waits. Trell leaned forward. Should we go? Mara didn't hesitate. We have to. She looked to Cora, Ray's, Vin, every face drawn tight with uncertainty and resolve. We've come this far. Jump to origin. The Vanguard aligned. Core spiked. Warp petals flared wide, absorbing the pulse of the mechanism directly into the drive. For a moment, every star on the map faded. Then, they moved. But it wasn't a jump. It was a translation. The ship didn't enter a place. It entered a state. There were no stars, no space, just an endless expanse of shifting light, like memory woven through air. In front of them, a sphere of pure geometry hovered, not constructed, not built, grown, a monument of thought and logic suspended in a void with no gravity. The origin node. Caldera's voice came soft, subdued. We are outside all known constants. No mass, no entropy. We are standing at the origin of judgment itself. Mara approached the viewport. The mechanism pulsed in time with the structure. Then a bridge unfolded, light weaving itself into a path across the void. She turned. Ex Ultra. With me. No one argued. Inside the node, they stepped into light. Every step forward collapsed behind them, a corridor forming only in the present. Inside the node, the walls were crystal, but within them shimmered lives. Memories. Billions. Every being ever judged. Their fates. Their thoughts. Their deaths. Vin gasped. It's a library of extinction. No, said Mara. It's an arc of history. This is where they watched, where they kept what they took. At the center of the chamber stood a single chair, ancient, elegant, and empty. Above it floated a crystal shaped like an eye. It opened, and from it a presence spoke. Not a voice, a feeling. Warm, measured, awful in its clarity. Bearer, why have you come? Mara stepped forward. We were chosen. You were tested. And you endured. Raze looked up. So now what? Do we get a medal? The presence did not laugh, but the air shimmered, amused. You are the first to endure across all scales, the only to bear memory without collapsing. Humanity is not exceptional by chance. You are built for survival, not just a body, but of meaning. Rat's brow tightened. You made us struggle. You made us suffer, because suffering reveals structure. And your structure is adaptive. Cora asked, Are you the mechanism? No, I am the architect. The mechanism is my echo, my seed. It chose you. Now I will show you why. The walls lit up, not just history, blueprints, worlds, systems, sentience beyond imagination. And in the center, a shadow, not alive, but consuming, entropy incarnate. The architect explained, There's a force that unravels all. The mechanism was built to slow it, judge it, resist it, but it cannot stop what devours meaning. Mara clenched her fists. What does? You do. If you accept, a shape formed above the chair. A spark. Familiar. It was the mechanism's final form. A key. A weapon. A will. With this, you rewrite the rules. But once taken, you become more. Not human. Not architect. Something new. Silence. Then Mara whispered, Will we survive it? No. The others looked at her, not in protest, in acceptance. Then Wrath stepped forward. No one survives forever, but we make sure the next ones can. Raze followed. We've come too far to stop at the threshold. Cora, Van, each nodded in turn. And Mara, she stepped forward, took the key, and sat on the throne. Across the galaxy, the mechanism pulsed. On distant worlds, the judgment ended. In dying systems, hope flared again. And in the void between all things, a new signal began to broadcast. Not one of destruction, but one of choice, of meaning, of humanity.